Good morning, everyone.
Good
Morning,
Rabbi.
We are learning Mishna Kiddushin, Parak Aleph, Chapter 1, Mishnah Vav, Mishnah 6. Now, we have been talking about kinyanim, how we acquire different things. And now this Mishnah is going to talk about a means of a kinyan, a means of acquisition that we call chalipin, exchanging. Okay, so the Mishnah says like this. Kol hana'aseh domim ba'achar, literally translated means anything that needs to be evaluated in order to be used as payment for something else. Okay? Anything that needs to be evaluated. That means if I want to give you an object as a payment for something, what do? You got to evaluate it. You got to see how much it's worth to see if it's, it's a full payment, partial payment, whatever it may be. But if you're going to, anything, which is really this anything is a movable object that is something that if you would use it as a payment for something, you have to evaluate it. The halacha is like this. So now, what's happening here is two people are going to be exchanging things. And the exchange is going to start with the fact that it's going to be like this. Again, we're starting with an object. An object needs to be evaluated. That means it's not a coin, because the coin doesn't need to be evaluated. The coin has its value. It's not a coin. And it's also not fruits. So right now we're talking about an object. So an object, we're dealing with an object. Keven shazach hazeh, once one person acquires one item, nischayev zeh b'chalifav, the other one is obligated to give him the exchange. Okay? So we're talking, we want to exchange something, right? We want to exchange something, and we'll see the example given. Want to exchange something. I'm going to give you something, you're going to give me back something. So now, once, let's say, one of us actually makes a kinyan on the other person's object, right? We do meshicha, we do whatever it may be, right? We draw it to ourselves, we pick it up. Once one of us makes a kinyan on one of the objects, the other object, the wording is, the other person is responsible for the object. What that means to say is that, so let's say it's me and you, okay? We're exchanging. So once you go ahead and you take my object, you acquire my object, your object will now become mine wherever it is. I'm not going to have the need to go ahead and make a separate kinyan on the object. There's a exchange here. And the exchange works that once I acquire yours, once I make a kinyan on yours and I acquire it, so mine automatically becomes yours, no matter where it is. And the point of that is that when we say you become obligated in the exchange, it means to say obligated for the exchange. It really means to say, now let's say this exchange takes place. You never got hold of it. You never got actually hold of it. You never actually took it. Okay? The exchange was made, never took it. And now the object that you acquired got burned up, got stolen, got taken away, whatever happened to it. You're still going to have to pay for it? You certainly will. Because through the chalipin, it became yours. Once it became yours, you have to pay me. So even though you never actually took it into your possession, you never physically took it, let's say, but at the end of the day, because we made a kinyan through the exchange, it became yours. So when I took your thing, meaning I made the kinyan on your thing, my thing became yours, wherever it is. It's yours now, 100% yours. The exchange was made. Now you got to pay for it. I shouldn't say that. Now, well, maybe you will have to pay for it depending on the situation. But the point is, right, let's not talk about that right now, about being obligated for it. Let's just talk about the fact that now it becomes yours, even if you never actually physically took it into your possession. I took yours. We're making an exchange. I took yours. Mine becomes yours, and it's done. Exchange is the kinyan is done. Okay, now wherever it is, it's actually yours. So now, Ketzad, what's an example of this? Hechlif shar b'para. If a person exchanges his ox for another person's cow, Chamar b'shar, or exchanges his donkey for another person's ox. Keven shazach hazeh, once one person acquires by making a kinyan on the object he's acquiring, The other person automatically becomes responsible for, meaning responsible for means he acquires the animal given in exchange for it. So again, we're exchanging we're exchanging a ox for another person's cow. So my ox, your cow. Once you, let's say, make a kinyan of my ox, your cow automatically becomes mine. And at that point, the exchange has been made, and the change of ownership has been made. Now, what is interesting in our case here is that when we're talking about exchanging animal for animal, so it would seem to be an exchange of equal value, right? You take my thing, I take your things. I buy your thing, you acquire my thing. The exchange is done. Everything is done. But actually, there is another type of exchange that is not going to be an even exchange value-wise, but rather there is another type of exchange which is effective only as a method of kinyan, only a method of acquisition. This is where one exchanges what's called a sudar. A sudar means a handkerchief or something, meaning something of little value, for a valuable object. As soon as one person acquires a handkerchief, the other person acquires a valuable object, which he must then pay for. So, for instance, right, I want to sell you my ox. You want to buy my ox. So what's going to happen is that you're going to give me, now my ox is worth a lot of money, right? You're going to give me a handkerchief. Is that a payment for the ox? That equal value to the ox? Certainly not.
Symbolic.
1 second. Okay, but what it is but if you give me your handkerchief, you give me your object, and now by giving me, you give me your object, so now by acquiring your object, my object now becomes yours. Now, at the end of the day, you still got to go in and pay for it, right? Making a kinyan through a handkerchief, right? That's not gonna say, okay, we're done. You got to pay for it. But the point is, though, that by you giving me your handkerchief, my ox, let's say, becomes yours automatically wherever it is. And now that my ox becomes yours, you have to pay for it. Now, under these circumstances, when my ox became yours, and before you got a chance to pay for it, right, it got stolen. It fell off a cliff. It got killed. You still have to pay. Because through giving the handkerchief, by giving me your handkerchief, you acquired my ox. And once you acquire my ox, you got to pay for it. And it doesn't matter that you physically never got it by you, because through the chalipin, through the exchange, wherever my thing is, it automatically becomes yours. So the case of the Mishnah was an exchange of two things of equal value. But the kinyan of an exchange doesn't have to only take place that way. It could take place even with things that are not of equal value. And when I take, let's say, the smaller thing of value, that is enough to go ahead and say that my thing automatically becomes yours wherever it may be. That's how the exchange can work. Okay? Now, that's the first part of the Mishnah that's talking about chalipin. You get it? Follow? Okay, next. Rishus hagavaya bekesef or rishus hahedyot b'chazaka. This means that the domain of hektish, domain of the Beis Hamikdash, temple treasury, the domain of hektish is bekesef, is with money, or rishus hahedyot b'chazara, and the domain of an ordinary person is with taking hold. I just translated the words. The means is like this. We learned before that you cannot acquire movable object with money. We learned that before. But let's say you're talking about hektish. Hektish, now, there's a treasurer, there's a gizbar, the treasurer of hektish. He wants to buy something to make it for the hektish treasury. Okay, hektish has a treasury, it owns object, can we sell them? That's how it makes its money. And the halacha is that when the treasurer wants to go ahead and buy something for hektish, if he gives money, it acquires it. Even though that's for hektish. Rishus hagavaya behektish. The higher domain, meaning the power of hektish, of the Beis Hamikdash, is with money. If it wants to buy a movable item, you can give money. So just to read here from the bottom, for example, if the temple treasurer buys an animal to use as a public offering, it becomes the property of the temple as soon as the treasurer pays for it. does not have to do another form of kinyan. Doesn't have to pull it, doesn't have to have it handed over to him. He gives money for it, he gives kesef, it becomes the domain of hektish. While rishus hahedyot b'chazaka, when it comes to the rishus domain of the ordinary person, meaning everybody else that's not hektish, how are they going to acquire the movable object? B'chazaka. B'chazaka here means taking hold of it. Taking hold of it means you have to actually make a kinyan on it. You lift it up if it's something you lift up, pull it to you, have it handed over to you, whichever is an ordinary form of kinyan of acquisition, that's what you do. So the Mishnah is trying to tell us that hektish has a stronger power than non-hektish. Hektish can acquire something, a movable object with kesef, with money, while everybody else would have to actually make in chazaka an actual kinyan. Here, chazaka doesn't mean a specific type of kinyan. We had the word chazaka by land, that it was a specific type of kinyan called chazaka, where you show ownership. Here, the word chazaka means taking hold, which is literally the translation of the word. But here, taking hold means you got to make a kinyan on it. Just giving money is not enough. And the last thing the Mishnah teaches us is amirasa legavaya kemisirasa lehedyot. What you say to hektish is like giving it over to a regular person. That means to say that if, let's say, you want to give something, an object to hektish, okay? Once you say this should belong to hektish, it becomes a property of hektish, just by talking, just by speaking. Anybody else, you can't just, by saying this should be yours. That doesn't work with anybody else. But when you're talking about hektish, the mere fact that you just go ahead and you talk and you say something, meaning you basically say, I'm giving over this object to hektish, the halacha is that it's going to work. So it's just as when a person hands over an object to someone else, that's the word mesira, the object automatically becomes the property of the second person. So too, when a person says that something should go to the Beis Hamikdash, it automatically becomes the property of the Beis Hamikdash. That's what it means. Amiras legavaya, his saying to the higher domain, meaning what he says to hektish, is like giving something over to a regular person. If you're an object, you want to have another person acquire an object, you got to give it to him. When it comes to hektish, you don't have to give it to hektish. The treasurer doesn't have to come and take it, make a kinyan on it. The mere fact that you dedicated it to hektish now says it belongs to hektish. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Okay, now I have